I have your comments pulled up on my desktop, looking at this on my iPad, so I'll be able to stop in a couple spots and take a look. I think this is probably enough space. I think you gave her a lot of lead out. One, two. I think this is less of a spacing issue because I just don't think she got up. Right, so she really flung herself forward rather than jumping upward. You mentioned that you were doing one jump training, jump grids. I would also do set point. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term. You can let me know. Set point, one jump drills. Actually, I guess it's two jumps. It's like a little small cavaletti that they kind of got to go over, and then they one bounce it. But it teaches them to kind of drive rather than fling themselves over bars like she's seeing here. Beautiful performance here. Classic trap. So I'm starting to see this more. This is especially hurtful for handlers who have to stop and help their dog on the contact. So here your dog has a beautiful stop, but you can see that you're slowing down. So your dog is getting a lot of body help from you. Unfortunately, that puts you behind. So one thing you can do is work on your independence. That'll let you be about here instead of over here. And so one thing that we've learned very much the hard way, if you're doing any kind of throttling or opposite hand work near a jump, the dog reads it as you needing to do that jump. All right. And so depending on, your system of cues, dogs will often come and take the jump and go this way, or they'll wrap for people who do shaping, V-set type stuff. And yeah, so your dog's going to read it that way. It's because of your physical proximity next to the double. So your dog would have done it correctly had this jump not been there. All right, because it would have been obvious that you were throttling around the tunnel. And so here, you pull the dog off the line, yes, and the dog says, oh, okay, it must be the jump. All right, so this really doesn't have to do very much with a poor throttle cue. It doesn't have to do with anything besides your position. So again, you either need to make sure that you're ahead by getting a more independent dog walk, specifically here, or you need to be more verbal. So like right here, once the dog comes off the line, you need to immediately be releasing to the tunnel and say tunnel, 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 and expect the dog to go for the tunnel. They have to verbally discriminate between this jump and the tunnel. That's the dog's mission. So you have to say it sooner. So if I play it and try and listen for the sound, which you will not be able to hear, but let me play it now. Yeah, I hear you start saying tunnel here, which is pretty early. So I don't know that you could have done too much there other than trying to be ahead. You can work on your discriminations, but this is a setup we're seeing more and more often. It's going to be contact, tunnel discrimination, and then this way or this way they put a trap jump. So memorize that scenario. In practice, what you want to do is the trap jump here, just move it further away and work on your skills. But you also have to mix in all options. So you're going to start with the dog on the contact, or you don't even need a contact there. You just sit the dog and then not lead out, right? Because remember, we're doing this from behind. So you got to get actually physically behind the dog so you're even with them at the release or right behind, right? It's no good if you do the exercise and you're always ahead of the dog, because that's not going to happen in the trial. So you're wasting your time. And you got to send the dog here, 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 and here. For international people, we even have to do this and this, those other two options, right? So you need every possible permutation, which is like 6. And we actually have to do it from both sides. So I make sure we do this. I don't know that you need to do all of that, right? But I think you need to do the basics, which is here, throttle, and then take this jump. And almost always you're going to do this rather than wrapping this way. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. That's what I would work on there. This is a good spot here for the bypass. I do see you pat the thigh one time. One. Right there. Okay. And then beautiful rear here on the tire. This is really tough. Here you just showed too much decel. Decel, very clearly decelling, which means come here. Yeah, so that's what happened there. You cannot decel that quick. If you want to tell me that she has a great send, I would still tell you that this is also satisfying the requirement for send, because the distance here is, not short. This is also wingless. That matters for some dogs. Let me see. Turn before the teeter. That was fine. Lastly, when I pulled her off the jump, you were expecting a much longer jump and you were not supporting the jump. It's not that you weren't supporting it. It's that you actually slowed down, which created the turn. So hopefully you can see that. Here you're leaning forward. Let's just go through this one more time because it's worth talking about. Here you're leaning forward. Here you're leaning back. Decel, right? And that's always going to turn our dog. Okay, so I don't think it's about the support or having a good arm. I think it's very much about the motion. Mostly I try to take sends out of handling. I'd rather run up a little closer, but just leave much sooner. Good throttle here. I think this is good. Waiting for the dog to set the line here. Sometimes stepping forward with the left foot helps a little bit, but you definitely know your dog best in that spot. This is very good. Very good. Because see, here, I want to just show you the difference on the jumping. Here your dog is taking an arc, right? It's an arc. This dog is jumping. On the beginning, your dog was flinging. The dog was not taking off this way. The dog was throwing themselves straight forward. So I think maybe that's where set point jumping will help you a little bit. All right. Ironically, the solution, let's say you don't have set point jumping, for dogs that fling over the first obstacle when the handler leads out past one. So oftentimes, let's just look real quick, right? So if your lead out is far in the dog's opinion, or they see some extending obstacle like a straight tunnel or a contact, in this case we actually have the dog walk, so maybe that's it. They get really fixated, they want to get to the dog walk as fast as possible, they'll fling. So one thing you can try to do, which doesn't always work, but sometimes you can do it without any training, is actually set the dog up close. So generally they have to pop over. Because it's so close, it's in their line of sight, some dogs won't fling, they'll just pop over it. So just something else to keep in mind. I would experiment with that in practice first.